The great Roger Penske once said, "The harder you work, the luckier you get." And while circumstances out of his control have allowed things to swing in favor of Christian Eisler so far this season, he's definitely been putting his car in the right places to take advantage of other people's ill fortune. But at the same time, Perez is working hard and snapping at his heels. His speed and consistency is bound to pay off should Lady Luck begin to turn her back on the Iceman. We'll see which way the coin falls today here at Phillip Island as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the Precision Racing League's American iRacing Tuesday series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, this Australian track might not be as familiar to Americans, so why don't you tell us a little bit about the place?
Of course, Sean. Welcome everyone to the Phillip Island Grand Prix course. Located in Victoria, Australia, this beautiful track was opened back in 1928. The current configuration that you see here with 12 turns, about 2.76 miles or 4.4 kilometers, was opened in 1978. Fun little fact about this track is that it was the original home for the Australian Grand Prix for Formula One in the early 50s. A couple of the popular series though that come here to race is the Australian V8 supercars. A couple of points though that the drivers here in this race though will be keeping an eye on is that momentum is going to be key. Drivers are going to need to make sure in those fast sweeping corners to carry as much momentum to set up passing opportunities in either the Southern Loop or down the Gardner Straight. Also keeping their eyes wide open as they take the run down to MG. It is a blind corner for Lukely Heights, so you don't know what could be happening as you're making that downhill run. To give us a closer look at this track, let's hop on our Global Sim Racing car and see a track guide.
All right, we're in the GSRC Porsche, so let's do a lap around Phillip Island. Down the front stretch, as long as this straight is and as fast as you'll get going, you still don't break a whole lot on your way into Doohan. Still, expect passing opportunities to open up here, but it's probably going to be mostly single file into this quick sweeper. Immediately, you've got to get the car set up for the Southern Loop. An understeering car with a decreasing radius corner that has a big rise in the middle, this turn is about as fun as a toothache. But it can mean lots of time made up if you hit it right. It's important to get the run out of here too, because you shouldn't be lifting through Stoner. And right after that is the most popular spot for overtakes, Honda. Just be careful because it's easy to get greedy with the Porsche and come in too hot. Plus, the immense power and the rear engine format really brings out the pendulum effect on the exit if you find the power too soon. From there, you'll switch sides and line up for Siberia. This is another one that tightens as it goes, yet needs you to be on the power early because of the long run afterwards. But any cars that try to race side by side up to the top of the hill might be in for a surprise because it's pretty marginal through the right-hander of 8. Now, Lukey Heights has always been one of the tougher corners in racing in my mind. It's a fast entry that slows as it goes, always climbing uphill. You find yourself able to put the power back down for a split second before you're braking yet again for MG. With how steep this downhill is, drivers often slither off into the grass when they brake too late. We'll balance the car on the throttle around the penultimate corner, and then we hit Swan. If you lift some on entry, from there it's a matter of gutting it out and keeping your foot in it around the rest. That's assuming your tires have enough grip left. You certainly don't want to slow yourself down by bounding over the dirt on the outside. But hopefully, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around Phillip Island. There you see what it is on a lap around here. Relatively short for these GTE cars. They definitely whip around at quite a pace. Now, this race today, however, is brought to you by Blue Ridge Performance. The BRP bike shop does liveries on motorcycles, and if you want to check them out, it is at blueridgeperformance.net. We have a link in the description. Definitely go give them a look. A big thank you to the BRP bike shop for bringing this race to air. Now, as qualifying works its way through, before we get to where the order stands right now, let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship and what's been going on there. Now, Christian Eisler, who has moved back up to the top with his 3rd win of the season at Mosport, I mentioned at the top of the show, has been incredibly lucky with those wins. And the drop week there that you see on the screen is definitely going to help him throughout the season because he did have one bad race so far. Daniel Pinto drops back down one position just because even though he's been very consistent, hasn't been able to get a win yet. Guillaume Dupont has started on the pole, but again, consistency really seems to play a big part in who's been doing well in these points, as Guillaume has finished a best of third at round 2 at Spa with plenty of other top 10s in there. Now, Ben Perez, even though he's been keeping up, he's got a little ways to try and catch up. He's had some bad luck so far this season, but has been snapping at the heels of Christian Eisler. And then Cameron Barry has a worst result of 12th. That is not bad at all. And that was at Spa. So he has dropped down to 5th in the Drivers' Championship. They also cover the Teams' Championship. What are we looking at over there for that, Taylor?
Well, currently with Eisler leading the charge for Team SDS Racing Onyx, currently is the points leader, but not too far away and 18 points back is Team Bushfink with Perez and Barry. Team HJ Motorsports is a 3rd position. They gained after last week at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. In the 4th position, after dropping down, is Sailor Racing Team with Pinto and Paust. And then rounding out your top 5 is the Quebec Power Racing with DuPont and Deschênes. So we're looking at a really tight team championship as well, besides the drivers, Joe.
I'm excited to see how this continues to play out. Still quite a bit of the season yet to go. In fact, half of it after this race is over, this being the 5th of 10 rounds. And speaking of which, why don't we run down exactly what is entailed in this race with our race details. As I said, we are in round 5. Now, these GTE cars includes 3 different makes: the Porsche 911 RSR, the Ferrari 488, and the Ford GT 2017. With a 45-minute race today, that'll mean they will have 1 pit stop because they have limited the fuel, and that will make strategy very important. You can't just go out there willy-nilly. You have to have some sort of plan if you want to be fast. The incident cap sitting at 30, that means that any driver that gets over 30 incidents will be disqualified on the spot. That includes going off track, spinning, or hitting another car or the wall. And they have no fast repairs, no spare cars in their pockets. If they get any damage, you've got to get that repaired during your pit stop or just deal with it or make an extra stop, Lord forbid. Now, the other interesting thing about this is we didn't have a note on our graphic, but we have heard from the organizers just recently here, Taylor, that they must take the long pit exit during the race. So I wonder if we're going to see penalties potentially for that. It can be easy to forget in the heat of the moment.
It can be, but I think some of these drivers know that the risk would be if you took that short pit exit. You know, cars are going down that straightaway at over close to 150 mile an hour. So imagine if a car coming out of pit road comes out of the short pit stop, that's going to cause serious issues. So I think it's a really smart call for what the series has done to use the longer pit exit.
So far this season, one of the big talking points, we were talking about this before the race here, Taylor, is the lap traffic. We've now seen it twice take the leader out, effectively, we should say. I mean, there's no putting it nicely. And this track has a lot of back and forth. The racing line crosses the track. Do you expect it to be an issue around here at Phillip Island, that we could see some miscommunication between the lapped cars and the leaders?
Oh, most definitely. It is going to be a very difficult thing for these leaders to deal with the lap traffic, especially through Southern Loop or the downhill of Lukely Heights into MG. Those corners are just so difficult to know where a driver is going to be going because it's so difficult to handle those corners.
So we take a look at some of our qualifiers. We mentioned we would talk about that. Now, Perez hasn't had many poles, only one. In fact, different pole sitter at every race so far this season. He's looking to be the first one to get it twice up at the top. And currently, he has about half a tenth over his main rival last season, the Iceman, Christian Eisler, as Perez, you see, pull off. So he's not going to continue that lap to the end. Eisler, I think, is on a good lap right now. Currently, he's coming out of Siberia. The other one that we've seen a lot up at the front since his entrance into the series only 2 races ago, back at Watkins Glen, Alexander Clank sitting in third. He's another one that has had an interesting pattern so far this season here, Taylor. Clank with a third and a second. So is he due for a first?
Oh, most definitely. I think tonight might be that opportunity if he can survive the attrition rate of this race. I think if he just puts his nose in the right opportunities and makes the good pit stop call, we could see him win this race tonight.
We're right on board with Alex. I just saw Eisler cross the start-finish line, and it looks like that last lap was his... Oh, my goodness. Eisler just ran 2 laps down to the 1,000th with the exact same time. I don't think I've ever seen that with the same car in qualifying. We've seen 2 cars, 2 different drivers get that, but not the same driver run the same time twice in a row. Well, that's some consistency for you. We keep using that word, and Eisler has clearly got it. Clank's last lap was not his fastest. In fact, it was a bit of a slow one. He's coming around to try a hot lap now. Some other talking points out here, Taylor, that we should probably consider. Looking back at the last race, one of the things that we saw was the fact that Mosport was very difficult to pass. It was essentially a stalemate for the final 20 minutes after the new driver, Jorge, fell out. So Jorge Flores was hit by lap traffic. So is this something that they might fall victim to here? Or, like, what are the passing opportunities? Is it going to be a little bit easier to try and overtake a car that's close on pace?
Well, there's a couple of passing points that drivers will definitely use to have an opportunity. One corner is the Honda corner. It's a hard braking corner. If you're able to set it up right and get to the inside of the driver, that's an excellent passing opportunity. Also, if you get that momentum, as we were talking about earlier, through either Doohan or Swan, that'll really help you go down those straightaways before you get to either Southern Loop or even Doohan Corner to set up that pass. So I think we'll be really seeing those areas as key passing points, and also the run up to Lukely Heights.
And Alexander Clank has improved his time, but not his position. Still sitting in third, a 1:23.4. Now we are riding on board with Landini there, watching from his nose. He sits in 6th position. And it's not just the places these drivers need to worry about overtakes. I know you were you were expressing some distaste for certain parts of this course. What are some of the spots around here that really can catch drivers out?
Well, the biggest one is going to be Southern Loop. I was watching a lot of drivers during practice. Either their car hits the curb on the inside of the corner and they just go down into the grass, or their car just washes way up into the gravel trap and just ends up losing it. So Southern Loop is really a problem, at least for me, a problem corner to try and manage if you don't have that setup right. That's going to be a spot I'm definitely going to be watching a lot of these drivers and seeing if they're able to manage that corner.
We watched Landini complete another lap, and unfortunately for him, he was less than a 10th off of his fastest, still not able to get above that 6th spot. Somewhat of a quiet driver. I wonder if we could take a look as we spot Eisler out there on track. Cameron Barry sits in 4th, outside of the 2nd row right now. Just hasn't made a whole lot of waves so far this season, Taylor, but Cameron's just kind of been hovering around those top 5 positions, it seems.
That is one of the most dangerous things a driver can be, is quiet, because you never know when that opportunity is going to come out and they're just going to blow the doors open and come out with on top. So Cameron Barry is definitely doing what he needs to do. Keep his head down, focus on the racetrack, focus on gaining as many points as he can, and who knows, we may be talking about another points contender for the championship by the end of the season.
Sure, he's hoping that we'll be talking about a winner as well. As you see, the checkered flag comes out. This means that Barry is on his last hot lap. After this, he can't put any more times in. So drivers who managed to cross the line before that flag waved will be able to do the same. Anybody coming across the line now, they are done with qualifying. As we watch Barry work his way around Swan, let's see what the Floridian can do. Sitting in 4th with a 23.8, and he is not faster, so that's as high as he will go. Other drivers still working. Matthew Fraley off track, unfortunately, so he's done for the day. And Michael Overbay actually just behind Barry. So this is an important one. Starting well up the order is Overbay. Through MG. Around turn 11. They need to give that one a name. That always just throws me off that everything has a name except 11 here. Oh, and Overbay is not going to take the lap. He comes into the pit entry. We'll need to talk about that a little bit later. That is another tricky part. It's not just the pit exit they got to worry about. James LeBlanc, the last one out on track. And is he close enough, Taylor? Can he get to the line from here?
Let's see where he's at. I think he's heading up to Lukey Heights. So MG net, yeah. So he might be able to make it. There's 36 seconds left on the timer, so he could probably make it.
It's in 21st. We haven't talked about a lot of these drivers down farther during qualifying. LeBlanc hasn't had the best of races lately. Certainly had a bad time at Mosport last time out. So as he comes around Swan in that Porsche, that 125.7, about 2 seconds off of the leader, 2.5 seconds off the leader. What does he do this time by? Does not count, unfortunately, for James LeBlanc. That will solidify our qualifying order, unfortunately, for everybody who is hoping for better. One more time, a big thank you to Blue Ridge Performance for sponsoring this event. Let's go to the grid. Ben Perez is our pole sitter, just ahead of Christian Eisler. Let's see if he can capitalize on that and get his second win of the season. Alexander Klenk will be starting in third, and row 2 is completed by Cameron Barry. Michael Overbay starts P5. He's flanked by Juan Manuel Landini. Andrew Fawcett will start in 7th place, and next to him in 8th, it'll be Sebastian Maciera. P9 will be Thomas Ellison. Top 10, Taylor, is rounded out by Matthew Fraley.
Looking at P11, as we move on to the next grid, is going to be Eric Luke, followed by Aaron Thacker in that beautiful Ford GT. In the 13th position is Justin Hall. 14 is Peter Morbiton. 15th is Mark Fali. 16th is Danny Duchesne. 17th is Fernando Rodriguez. 18th is Takashi Kita. 19th, Sean Kennings. And 20th is Karsten Quint.
Number 21, we talked about it earlier. James LeBlanc sitting in that spot. 22nd, it will be Richie Pittenger. Then Hugo Galaz starts in 23rd, and next to him will be Moises Labato in 24th. Tyler Gore starts in 25th, and in 26th, it'll be Victor O'Brien. And 27th, it'll be Gary Schilling. And 28th will be Lucio Vargas. Richard Colombe, I do not see him out on the grid yet. He did not put a qualifying time in. Not sure that we are going to see him. Let me double check here to see if he is. Nope, he is not in the server right now. So it looks like Richard will be a did not start for this race. Still a field of 28 cars. That'll be plenty. I'm sure the leaders will be happy. That's one less bit of traffic, Taylor, that they have to deal with.
Yes, indeed. One less car to worry about, but still have at least 27 other cars they have to worry about for each and every one of these drivers out on track. So it's going to be a fun race. Looking forward to watching it. Looking forward to calling it. So let's have some fun, Joe.
Oh, we always have fun calling the Precision Racing League's American iRacing Tuesday series. I gave a quick mention of that pit entry, Taylor, and I know you've done some endurance racing here, so obviously you've had time to try to implement pit stops into this. Explain to our viewers exactly what's so tricky about getting that pit entry right.
Well, you're coming out of turn 11, so it's going to be very quickly coming up on you as you're getting ready to head to Swan. So you really have to time that pit entry. Otherwise, you're going to miss it, and especially if you're low on fuel, it's going to take you either a long time to get back around the track, or you're going to run out of fuel and request a tow. So it's very important to keep an eye, listen to your crew chief and spotters if you have those in the sim, to make sure that you hit your marks on pit road. And it's a long entry into pit road, so some people might try to get as much speed as they can into before they have to hit the pit road speed limiter, and that could cause a potential for speeding penalties. So we'll have to keep an eye on if anyone speeds on pit road.
So many little things that you need to practice around here to get the race right. And yet, there is also the draft. Now, we've covered a lot of slower cars around here, Taylor, but you have so much more experience here in these higher-powered GT cars. Does the more in the engine mean that it's less of an issue trying to break the draft on the car behind you, or is it very much still a Talladega-esque like situation for these guys?
Depends on what your setup is, how the aerodynamics of your car as well as the car in front of you. If you're able to get the right draft, it'll most likely be down the Gardner Straight. Other than that, it's really no drafting opportunities for the cars on the track.
All right, well, they're coming up to the top of the hill out of Siberia. And you educated me on, I forgot the name already. What is this turn 8 here again?
Turn 8 is Hayshed. I was doing a little reset.
Okay.
So only 2 turns on this 12-turn circuit have no name. That would be turn 7 and turn 11. So
I like that, Hayshed. That's a good name. I'll keep that one in mind from now on. I always like learning what the corner names are on these tracks around the world. Yes. Soon we're going to be going around this track for 45 minutes. As they come around turn 11, the pace car will peel off before Swan, and then Ben Perez will have control of the field. It'll be a fast swing into the first corner. Who is going to be brave enough to stick it out around the outside to give themselves the inside into the southern loop? We'll see in just a moment. Perez keeping him nice and slow, waiting for the green flag to wave. Creeping toward the line. Green flag is out for Ben Perez here in round 5 of the American iRacing Tuesday Series. He's got a great jump over his rival Eisler. Alexander Clank, though, taking a peek down to the inside in that blue and yellow machine. He's going to be on the wrong side once they get to the southern loop. So as our leaders sort themselves out, lots of side-by-side action farther down there, Taylor.
Yeah, teammates going at it as we see Aaron Thacker making a move now as he goes. Oh, a little contact between him and Overbay. So he's got to be a little bit careful now as they head down into the Honda corner. So he's real careful right now. So, but good racing between those two.
We'll come back to it later, but Thomas Ellison got turned around and nearly went up and over the banking out of the southern loop. A bad start
we got
for Thomas.
Contact going on right now in the back over in Honda.
Kenny, it looks like. More replays will have to line up here.
Yeah, it looks like Kenny just overshot it and just went through the grass.
Boy, messy start for the midfield, but very clean up at the top. In fact, Perez making use of that clean air to get himself nearly a second ahead of the Iceman. Cameron Barry did manage to get past Clank and is now fending him off for a very tightly fought third place.
Yeah, Clank missed an opportunity, so he's going to try to use that draft as they go down into Swan, down the Gardner Straight. This is a good passing opportunity to set up for Doohan Corner, so let's keep an eye on that battle.
Going to be tough to try and go side by side through this corner. Apparently not quite flat out in these cars. As they work their way through Doohan, the first of the track, and then down to the difficult braking of the southern loop. Ooh, little look from Alexander Clank into that left-hander. And unfortunately, there was no room at the end. I think we've got an opportunity because I don't think we're going to see a pass. Clank stays in line. So let's go back to Ellison's incident and see what happened to him. He was the first one. And this was coming out of the southern loop. I don't know if you caught this. I know you saw contact with someone else there on the first lap, Taylor.
Yeah, I caught Thacker and Overby making a little bit of contact. No major issues, but
we got an accident on screen. Who is that? Is that Gore? That is Tyler Gore.
Tyler Gore, yeah, spinning around. He gets it back straight away, but let's take a look at that.
Moises Lobato was the one that got into him. Looks like Gore, I think we're going to pull up this replay that we just saw with Gore. Looks like he was a little wide on entry. Lobato thought maybe he could stick his nose in. I think we're trying to get this replay together. Oh, it looks like we weren't able to catch it. All right, now we've got it pulled together. So let's take a glance at this. Well, we've got the front stretch. So we try to find exactly what happened to Gore here on this lap. Looks like we're not going to have this one, unfortunately. So we'll come back to that later, possibly. Let's take a glance at some of the midfield and what action they've got going on. A lot of them spread out, but Fraley and Luke in 11th and 12th. and a very close fight.
Yes, there, as they head down into Siberia, it is Farley that has the position right now as he gets a little bit too out and into the gravel trap, so he's going to try to keep it going as best he can. Lost time as Luke was able to get by cleanly, no problem, but it looks like Fraley is now under pressure from Keita as Keita just goes to the grass, trying to make a pass in the grass. They head up to Lukely Heights, but no problem at all for Fraley as he is holding on position.
Yeah, Keita probably would have had a better opportunity, but he went wide as well down into Siberia. And look at the train that this is starting to stack up. That's Rodriguez, Duchesne, File, and Pittenger that are coming up on the back of Fraley from that one mistake. He is in big danger of losing a lot of positions.
Got a battle for fifth between Landini and Marceri as they're going into Duhan Corner down into the southern loop, but it looks like Landini was able to hold them off, still holding a nice smooth line through the southern loop, no problem at all, as it looks like Marceri is washed up a little bit and lost some traction.
Yeah, Sebastian still putting the pressure on, staying behind him. Up at the top of the screen, you may have seen that Perez set the fastest lap. Well, he's streaking away. It is now up to 1.6 seconds over Eisler, and we still have 40 minutes left to go. There is our leader, and the gap now up to 1.7, 1.8 even over Eisler. Is not looking good for the field. Almost seems like a bit of a Vettel-esque driver here. I can't say that with a straight face completely, though, with Perez, because you didn't see last season, Taylor, but he knows how to fight side by side with other drivers. But this season, Perez, when he gets out front, it seems like nobody can challenge him.
No, it seems like he is just on his own zip code at the moment, just pulling away. So it's really a track that's suiting him tonight. So we'll definitely see if Perez is able to hold on.
Battle for seventh starting to heat up. Mabroten and Overbay. Overbay leading in that number 36 car. As they work their way through the southern loop, we ride on board with Overbay. The car fighting him behind Mabroten. There as we look back. There we go, as we look back at Mabroten now in the orange Porsche. Oh, getting awful close on the braking zone, managing to stay out of him. And these two have to worry about if they start to go side by side. Aaron Thacker, you talked about him making contact earlier. He has not let it faze him, sitting in that ninth spot in the popcorn position. He's ready to take advantage here, Taylor.
Yeah, and that's pretty much his whole plan that he did last week at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Just let others make those mistakes and just squeeze right on by and make those positions. And he ended up with a really good top 10 finish, so we'll definitely be watching Thacker, as it looks like that Mabroten has messed up a little bit and through up to Lukely Heights.
Yep, lost a little bit of ground. We also understand that Lobato getting into a bit of a battle. Oh, no, excuse me. He's in the pits now. Moises he's back out of the pits, but he's all the way down last on track in 28th. Not the way he wanted to start this one. I think we saw Moises involved in the contact through Honda on that first lap. So, up ahead of him, Justin Hall, hole 33, almost 34 seconds in front of Lobato. He's got a long ways to go to get even a single position in this race.
Looks like Lobato was able...
Whoa, sorry, we had a big incident. Fernando Rodriguez. And who was that sliding across the track with him? Danny Duchesne.
Vargas.
Yeah, and I think Vargas went off all of his own accord. So what happened here is Duchesne outbraked himself, tried to take evasive maneuver, and I think, and trying to avoid the car sliding in. Here we've got the replay. Rodriguez himself went off track. This is a wild ride for both drivers. Watch this. It's coming up to Honda. Here's where it unfolds. narrowly misses him. So they're both able to continue, but unfortunately, Rodriguez down in 17th and Duchesne in 18th after that. And there you see Vargas taking to the grass, just getting on the power a little too quick.
Looks like Quinn also went through the grass down on the Gardner straight a little bit, was able to get back on track and continue.
Oh, you mentioned that being one of those areas where it's difficult trying to get out of Swan without getting into the gravel.
Yeah, it's one of those points. It looked like he has that same issue as LeBlanc's now trying to catch up to Duchesne. LeBlanc is able to put the power down nice and smooth through the southern loop, and now is making his attack on Duchesne.
Around Stoner they come into the braking. Not close enough on Duchesne. Behind them, oh, a little bit out braking himself. Duchesne does not like Honda corner, and that brings Thomas Ellison right into things.
They now head through Siberia. Ellison now got a good run off Siberia, but nearly throws a block, though, LeBlanc does, pushing him nearly out of the grass. So this is going to be a little bit interesting as they make the run up to Lukeley Heights.
And remember, Ellison out of position. He qualified 9th. He sits in 19th right now because of his incident out of the southern loop on lap 1. Takes a look to the inside, down on LeBlanc. Can't quite pull it off.
No, but this is a good opportunity as they go through Swan. See if he can build that momentum, use that draft down the Gardner Straight. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Ellison has a good run. Doesn't wash up. Going to try to utilize that draft, but I think he's not close enough to make a pass to go down as Duhon.
Yep, and that's going to give each of them breathing room, which I'm sure Duchesne will appreciate because he knows he should be slightly faster than these guys after his error. Wants to try and break that draft.
Sebastian off course in Honda, able to get back on track. Just over-braked it a little bit, and this now brings in Thacker. So that's that opportunity that Thacker was looking for. Someone to mess up, go into Siberia.
This has been a very messy first 10 minutes of this race. I'm actually kind of surprised with the way they started this season at one of the most difficult tracks at Detroit, where it was an incredibly clean race. So many drivers made it to the end. And yet, for some reason, Phillip Island is throwing a wrench in it for them.
It's one of those tracks where you think it's very easy, but in a turn, it is very difficult to drive.
We watch Masiera in 7th with Thacker doing everything he can. Surprised started this race. They started this season at currently up to 8th. This is a great mover up at the top of the field where it's harder to make positions. Oh, we had a big incident with Victor O'Brien and Hugo Galaz towards the back of the field. They're slipping down as far as 27th. This was up in Lukeley Heights. Ooh, and it looks like 2 separate incidents, actually. Started with O'Brien. Coming up into that fast uphill left-hander. Believe this is O'Brien that we're looking at on screen. You're going to see the rear of the car just get away from him. And then the car that's going to come up and join him is Galaz trying to take avoiding action.
That's what it
spins off in sympathy. Go ahead, Taylor.
So Rodriguez goes off in Honda corner, and now Vargas has got a run on LeBlanc and through Siberia. So Vargas is now working his way up as he's now into the 19th position. Rodriguez having a little difficulty through Siberia as they now head up towards Hayshed, which is going to be a little interesting to watch as they go up to Lukeley Heights.
They're still chasing Rodriguez, all of them behind Ellison, who's now found his way to 17th. No moves down into that hairpin. All this watching of the mid-pack, all this action, these mistakes, we haven't given hardly any time to the leaders, and well, there really hasn't been a whole lot happening if in case you're a fan of any of our top drivers. Perez still leads. He's got almost 3 seconds over Eisler now. Clank holding on to Eisler. He's about a second back, but not able to attack. And Barry has slipped back even farther, 4.5 seconds back to that 4th place driver. Juan Manuel Landini rounding out our top 5.
Looks like Fraley went off.
Yeah. Southern Loop.
It's one of those times he went off a little bit, washed up, and into the gravel trap he went.
There we saw him returning to the track. We're going to see the replay to see how they started. I think he got very lucky. I'm looking on my screen, and you'll see here as he comes into it, he's going to get awful close, goes all the way through the gravel, and just narrowly stays out of the tires. Look at that. He had about less than a foot to go.
Oh, that's some really good driving there by Fraley. So he was...
Oh, and I think Eisler must have made a mistake. Clank has closed in to within 0.2 of a second. This is for second place. Alexander, we mentioned, he's got a third under his belt. He's got a second under his belt. He wants to jump one position higher.
He's trying to get a good run off of Southern Loop. He washed up just a little bit now. So now as they're heading down towards Stoner Corner, this is going to be that opportunity. Looks like Eisler is going to have to make sure he holds him off as they head down into Honda Corner, and is able to do that. Down through Honda as he brakes a little bit too hard. Clank closes in as best they can, and now the run to Siberia. Clank is trying to find that opportunity, but still no help at all as Eisler just smoothly goes through Siberia.
The first race we saw Alexander have an issue with his pit stop. A slow stop meant he could only manage third. He did better at Mossport, but was still stuck behind the two leaders. Couldn't do, or behind our leader, couldn't do anything with him. Today he's stuck again. Let's see if he can keep the pit stop clean and fast as they start to get into the pit window now, Taylor.
Yeah, this is that opportunity where we'll see anybody maybe pitting a little early, trying to leapfrog the competition when the pit stop cycles start moving on, or we might see people waiting towards the very last minute to make that pit stop. So it's going to be a split decision on what these drivers will decide to do.
Wow, look at him close down into Doohan, but every single time just running out of track. Maybe needs to be a little bit tighter to the car ahead when they come out of Swan if he wants to get an opportunity. This is going to be his next chance, Taylor, coming up to Honda.
Yep, he's going to try to utilize a little bit of the draft as they head down into Stoner Corner. And now Eisler has definitely got to keep an eye on his mirror as they head down into Honda Corner. A little bit of brake check as they go down, but he's able to smoothly get through there into Siberia. So Eisler is just doing what he needs to do, holding off Clank, but Clank is definitely going to be there if Eisler makes a mistake.
He did make a little bit of a mistake. You mentioned that tiny little lockup with the right front in the Honda. Can't abuse those tires too much. They may not have flat spots in the sim yet, but you can overheat those things as they each take a very different line. Now that is fascinating there, Taylor. Both are very fast, but they were complete opposites through Lukey Heights. Now, what do you think each of them are doing? Like, what are the advantages to those two different lines?
Probably a little bit of driver vision, because you never know what could be going on down the hill of Lukey Heights. So that could be just a way of protecting the driver in case the driver in front has a spin or there's a driver in front of them that might have a problem. That way they're able to make that evasive maneuver as quickly as they can without any problems.
We had a big error for Cameron Berry, and he's lost a position. This was coming through Lukey Heights, and now he's trying to get it back from Overbay. He's going to be on the outside of Doohan here, and he gets it back if he can just hold the car together. Brave stuff.
Yeah, and
from the fourth place driver.
Yeah, Overbay looked like he let off a little bit. Didn't want to have too wide into Doohan Corner, so it can be done, but it can be tricky. So I think Overbay was trying to play the smart race and just focus on catching him and then pulling away instead of racing side by side.
There we see the tail of it just clattering through the grass and gravel all the way down to MG, and there comes Overbay trying to pull it side by side. Just in the nick of time, Barry gets it going once again.
Got a three-car battle for the sixth position between Landini, Thacker, and Mobrotin as they're now heading through Siberia. Thacker almost had a good opportunity into Honda to get by Landini, but unfortunately is not able to make the pass as they head down into Hayset up to Lukey Heights. Landini is able to hold him off. Thacker, though, looking for that opportunity in the downhill section to MG. Looks to the inside. Nope, not going to follow. It's going to just follow suit. So as Mobrotin is following suit, bringing in Marceri and Luke. So we now have a 5-car battle for the 6th position winding up.
Saw a big squirm on the power from Aaron Thacker there in 7th, the blue and yellow HJ Motorsports car. And that's cost him some momentum.
Got second now.
Oh, we missed a pass?
We missed the pass. He's now pulling away on Southern Loop.
That was down the Gardner Straight. We're going to get it on screen. The blue and white Porsche gets a run. This is where it all starts, coming out of that penultimate corner up the Swan here, Taylor.
Yep, he's going to try to get as much momentum going through that bank corner of Swan, down the front straightaway of Gardner Straight, and is going to utilize that draft and then take a peek. Let's see where he takes the peek. Is he going to go to the outside or inside? He goes to the inside of the corner, down into Duhan corner, and just makes the pass. A beautiful pass by our second place driver of Clank.
Smooth as you like, and it looked like the Iceman may have facilitated that a bit. He does know how to win championships, and he knows when to maybe give up the battle to get the war. Oh, and was that Clank just going a little off track there that we saw on screen between the last two corners? Doesn't look like it hurt him too much.
I'm looking in the battle for fourth position now, as Barry, Overby are now bringing in Landini and Thacker. So this battle is just bringing in the train a little bit more, a little bit by little bit. So this is going to be interesting to watch these four battle it out. And I think Broughton is coming into the battle as well. So we're really going to be having an exciting battle for the fourth position.
The more the merrier, unless you're the lead car, in which case you want them all off your back. So battle effectively for sixth place, fifth place, Overbay leading the way. Almost lost it to Landini, but Landini had to check up out of the southern loop. That brings Aaron Thacker right on top of him. The highest position for GT at the moment. He takes a look down to the inside, tries to outbrake him, can't get it in there. Puff of smoke from the car ahead as Michael Overbay barely gets it woed up in time. They stay in order, but not for lack of trying.
No, they head down into Siberia. Overbay nice and smooth to that corner. Landini, though, is going to try to look to the outside. No, going to follow suit as they head down towards Hayshed up to Lookie Heights. Looks to the inside. Nope, going to follow suit. Thacker, though, hits the brakes a little bit later on. Down Lookie Heights into MG. Landini looks to the inside. Not close enough. Hard onto the brakes. Down into MG. Oh, little lockup. Thacker looking in as they head down into turn 11 into Swan.
Things getting very intense here in the top 10. Landini dropping off of Overbay now, and instead, very much under threat from Aaron Thacker. He goes wide, and Thacker able to carry his speed. No lifting. The blue and yellow for GT slips himself into sixth.
Yeah, it looks like he made the beautiful pass down into Duhan corner. Just starts pulling away. This might bring in Mo Broughton into the picture as they head down into Southern Loop. He's not close enough to Landini, but he is closing little bit by little bit.
All right, I think we got some scheduled stops starting to happen. Mark File comes in and hits pit lane nice and easy.
Yeah, Mark's been quite quiet tonight after that little bit of an off early on in the race, so might kind of get some fresh tire, get the gravel off his tire, some fuel, and back out on the track.
Boy, I think Thacker is being held up a little bit because once he got past Landini here, Overbay is already within his sights. He took a look into Honda. There we see on screen how close the Ford is to the Ferrari.
Yeah, he is closing. He goes a little bit wider arc into Lookie Heights, and now is going to follow suit with Overbay as they head into MG. A nice braking opportunity. Overbay lose a little bit of lockup, but Thacker closing in now. He's now going to try to use that draft and build up that momentum into Swan. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a pass down Gardner Straight or into Duhan corner, so we'll have to definitely keep an eye on this.
I wonder if Thacker maybe had a mistake in qualifying. He started in 12th. He's now up to 6th position and threatening for a top 5. That is no mean feat. Meanwhile, one of our top runners are in. Juan Manuel Landini takes the 444 into his stall.
Yep, he is in his pit stall at the moment. Let's see if he gets any fuel. Probably get fuel and 4 tires, get back out on the track. One thing to keep in mind is we might see some drivers take no tires, double stint the tires in a sense for these races. So something to keep an eye on if anybody makes that decision, as Landini is off pit road.
Is there any strategic advantage to that, Taylor? Does it save you time in the pits?
Saves you a little bit of time in the pits. Strategically wise, for a sprint race, it's not maybe a good idea. An endurance race is highly recommended, but like I said, some of these drivers might be taking better care of their tires than others, so we may see a couple of people take no tires.
Landini back out in 18th position. If we could jump back up to 5th, Thacker still not leaving Overbay alone, being an absolute pest to that Ferrari.
One thing I'm watching right now is Perez is working his way through lap traffic. He just now put Mark File a lap down into Duhan. So it looks like those lap cars are playing nice with the leaders as they're just letting him by as he's now working his way into the southern loop and has his eyes set on Hugo Galaz.
And after the traffic having bad moments twice in a row now, I don't think anybody wants to be that person for this broadcast. So I am not too surprised that the traffic is playing very nice today.
Nice run by Thacker into Duhan corner into the southern loop. He is right on top of Overbay. Gets a little washed up though. Still has the momentum on his side as they head down into the Stoner corner. Beautiful battle going on between the two as it looks like Thacker gets into the grass a little bit, loses that momentum. But here's an opportunity as they go down into the Honda corner. Let's see how hard into the braking zone they'll go. Nope, Thacker though has that opportunity on the inside. Cannot close the deal though. Overbay holding on as best he can into Siberia. Thacker trying to get that momentum working for him as they make their run up to Hayshed and into Lookie Heights.
That 816 is on a mission, looking everywhere he can. That little puff of smoke that we saw into Honda, that was Cameron Barry just ahead of these two. Oh, and second place Rodriguez comes in. That should hand it back over to Clank. Indeed it does. Haven't really been paying a whole lot of attention to Rodriguez.
Yeah, he's been quiet, running in the 15th position that last lap.
I'm sorry, that's damage on his car if I'm seeing correctly. So that's why we haven't been paying attention. I was confused there for a second. He hit the wall in the southern loop. Sorry there.
Yep, and he has took it behind the wall, so it looks like the damage is a little bit too more severe for him than what it was able to handle.
Oh, sad to see. Rodriguez now not going to be able to take it to the end of this race. There we see Cameron Barry just ahead of that 5th place battle still going on. Overbay. Oh, and this is a great run from Aaron Thacker. This is probably the best we've seen coming down into Honda. He's closer and closer, less than a car length, sticks his nose in. Oh, late defense there from Overbay. More tires being locked up down into the corner. He does manage to get side by side as he's given room at the apex, but it switches back in favor of Overbay with the left-hander of Siberia. Now up the hill. He's smelling blood in the water, Aaron Thacker. Through Hayshed, up to Lookie Heights. He could try a desperate move here, or he could try to set him up for MG. Let's see what he plans here, Taylor.
He's setting him up. He's going to look to the inside. Nope, not close enough as they head down into MG. No lockup this time, so they've got through it nice and smooth. Down into turn 11. Looks like Overbay is going to hold him off as they go down into Swan. As Thacker now comes down pit road, so he's going to make this opportunity to make a pit stop. One thing I was noticing looking at the time chart is that Clank is just pulling away from Eisler lap after lap. So I'm wondering if Eisler is trying to save those tires, maybe save a little fuel. So it's something to keep in mind on.
That is fascinating. Neither of them have pitted. 13th right now is getting close between Pittenger and Fraley. Fraley still trying to work his way forward. He started in 10th, had some mistakes, just barely dipping his wheels off the track. I'm amazed he kept that together.
Yeah, he again lost it, washed up the track a little bit, lost that grip he needed as to go down into Duhan. I don't think Fraley has anything for Pittenger at the moment, but still, long way to go in this race. So, and pit stops still needing to be done.
Okay, I might have an interesting development here. Now, I'm not sure if I'm remembering wrong. Wasn't Landini ahead of Thacker before the pit stops? Because right now he's behind him.
I believe so. He was behind us. Perez is now making his pit stop. Down into pit road he goes. And Clank is also on pit road.
All right, we got confirmation that Thacker has leapfrogged Landini. Wow, he's up to 13th. He's the highest car that's pitted, but that's going to change because Perez is now into his pit stall. Clank joins him, and Eisler as well.
Our top four has all gone down pit road as Cameron Barry goes down into pit road, giving the lead now to Michael Overbay. So this will be that opportunity for Michael to try and pull away a little bit, gain as much time as he can before he needs to make his pit stop. He might be able to hold him off, but I don't think no one can touch Benjamin Perez.
There you see Perez, two-time champion, coming out in third place, just ahead of Mabroten and behind Eric Luke.
Real slow pit stop for Barry, though. He's really behind from the rest of the field as Eisler now comes off pit road.
And what was the gap between Clank and Eisler before the pit stop? Because it's now up to 5 seconds between them.
It was close to 9, so it looks like Eisler gained a little bit of time on him. So like we were saying earlier, trying to gain as much speed before you have to hit that pit limiter could make the difference.
Hearing that Eisler was better by about 1.5 seconds in the pit stops. That's where he gained some of that time, but you're right. I would suspect, since we're not seeing it on our timing screens, that the rest of that comes down to attacking that entry.
All right, let's see if Michael Overbay comes to pit road. Now he's in turn 11, getting ready to head into Swan. Let's see if he's going to make his pit stop now.
They can usually go about a half an hour. So, yeah, I was going to say they're probably at the very tail end here with 15 minutes left to go. Overbay in, Luke in, and I expect Mabroten to join. Yes, he does.
And there goes Perez now, as he now will reclaim the lead. So Benjamin Perez back where he started and pulling away.
And interestingly, let's see, Overbay, Luke, and Mabroten. So that leaves Clank. My goodness, Perez has a lead of 11.7 seconds. 11.2 now, I'm seeing. So hovering at about 11. That is a monster gap here in this series, which has seen most of the top drivers be relatively close in pace.
Yeah, so this is quite surprising for seeing this race, especially after watching the race last week at Canadian Tire Motorsports Parks, where the top three was just separated by under a second pretty much the entire race. So seeing this big of a gap for this race is quite astounding.
All right, fans of Aaron Thacker.
Cameron Barry off course.
Ooh.
Back on track now, giving Thacker that position. So Thacker might be in the top 5 pretty soon after this lap. We'll have to take a look at the timing and scoring.
Yeah, he will be. He will be in 5th. I was just about to say, after those pit stops, as he locks him up into Honda, but we're going to go to the replay here. Let's see what happened to Barry. Just that little bit wide, just barely out of the groove. Slows it up in time, but not in time to keep from losing a position. I was about to say that Thacker did not jump Overbay, which I think is what he was trying to do in those pit stops, since he was attacking him right before he ducked in. In fact, Overbay gapped him by about 2.3 seconds in those pit stops. He was about 1.5 seconds faster in the pit stall.
Cameron Barry had a nice jump down into MG, but was not close enough to make the pass as they head down the Gardner Straight. So here's that opportunity to use that draft down the Gardner Straight to set up for a passing opportunity into Doohan. But it looks like Thacker is going to hold him off. Looking at timing scoring, yes, he is P5, but looks like Barry is going to look to the inside, side by side into Doohan. Might be no contact. Thacker is going to be able to pull away into the southern loop. Barry trying to find that opportunity into making it pass on the inside. Nope. Thacker holding him off down the straightaway.
Barry giving a fierce battle to try and get a top 5 back. He does not want to let this one go. Down into Honda, the Floridian, versus the car of Aaron Thacker, hailing from Texas. Can't get anything done down into there. It switches back around up to Siberia. A steep climb through this left-hander. And Thacker getting good onto the power is going to make himself safe through Hayshed and into Lukey Heights.
Just a really good battle between the two as Thacker's pulling away. Barry looking a little bit wide into Lukey Heights as they head down into MG. It's not close. He's going to get hard onto the brakes now into MG. That might help out a little bit as they set up for turn 11 and try to build as much momentum into Swan. Utilizing that giraffe now, Barry trying to close in onto Thacker. Going down to the bottom of the corner of Swan, down the Gardner Straight, completing another lap. And not close enough to make a setup for a pass into Doohan.
But Taylor, if they keep fighting, look who's just behind them. Landini's caught it down to about 1.5 seconds, and he's bringing Luke along with him. This could become a 4-car fight for a top 5 spot if they keep tussling like this.
Yeah, they sure are. Landini, though, lost it a little bit and washed up just enough to bring in Luke a little bit closer. So Luke might have set up a good passing opportunity into Honda corner if he gets a little bit more closer. So, but a really good battle between Landini and Luke. As Luke looks into the inside, nope, not close enough. Landini get the power down as they head towards Siberia.
10 minutes left to go. If these start to break up, we'll try to run you through the field, but right now, don't really want to duck off in case something happens between these 4 cars. It really is our tightest battle up at the top of the field. Everybody else is 7 seconds apart or more.
We got some lap traffic going on right now. Major issues between Thacker and Barry. Barry and Thacker break hard, lock up into MG. Got lap traffic now of Overlay or Galaz and Schillings blocking the way. They're trying to give way for him as Thacker now is able to get by Galaz along with Barry. So Schillings going to have to move out of the way as quick as he can as Thacker is closing in on him. So lap traffic, even though it's not for the leaders, is affecting the front runners right now.
And the reason that those two were not ducking aside more quickly was they were in a battle for position. Ooh, Schilling almost getting hit by Landini through Doohan there, but pulls out of the way just in time. Go ahead.
I'm looking at Overbay right now. They are pretty much closing in on Thacker, even with all this battling. So this could be interesting a little bit.
Sorry, there on screen, that was Galaz taking advantage of Schilling not watching his F3 box better. He just gave the spot away, trying to let the car of Luke lap him. So very clever stuff from Hugo to stream on through.
Looking at the lap time between Overbay and Thacker, Overbay ran a 26.6, while Thacker ran a 25.7. So Thacker almost nearly a second faster that last lap. So he is definitely putting the hammer down and trying to close in on Overbay. Of course, getting to them is one thing. Passing is a whole nother story.
Indeed it is. Out of MG they come, running out of laps. They've split up a little bit, so let's go through our top 10, run you down now that pit stops are over, and give you an update on how this race is going. Ben Perez is your leader. He put it on pole, has not looked back since, hasn't even been bothered, really, since the drop of the green. It's Alexander Klenk, who's already got a second and a third under his belt. And unless a catastrophe hits Ben again, I'm pretty sure it's going to be another second place for the 337. Christian Eisler, having started this race in second, has slipped down to third. That's going to hurt his points championship, especially with his main rival Perez coming up and taking a win potentially here today. Eisler sits about 13 seconds ahead of Michael Overbay, who we've been following quite a bit here. And then it starts to finally get close. The top 5 rounded out just a little under a second back by Aaron Thacker, mover of the race for me, going from 12th to 5th, potentially more. What's the next 5 look like there, Taylor?
Well, right behind Thacker in that number 23 Ferrari is going to be Cameron Barry. So he is trying to make his move now. In the 7th position, the 444 of Juan Landini, he's making his way up through the field after some incidents early on. Next up, in the 8th position, is Eric Luke in the 09 Ferrari. In the 9th position is Pete Morbroten, and he is closing in on that Porsche. And next up, in the 10th position, rounding out your top 10, is Sebastian Marceria. And he's been pretty much doing his thing, being real quiet throughout most of the race and just picking him up, putting him down, making his right decisions. So that is your top 10.
Now down to 7 minutes to go. It may look done up for the podium, but I'm very curious to see how this is all going to unfold from Overbay on back. They're getting that little bit of room to try and relax, to try and focus on their race instead of the car behind. Pretty much all of those 4 that we were watching a second away from one another. Thacker, the only real one, starting to close back in. He's got it down to 7/10, but he's having to push hard as I think that number 36, has decided to try and kick it in gear.
Yeah, Thacker, though, is a little bit faster that lap as he ran at 24.9 compared to Overbay's 25.0, so this is going to get down to the wire now, as we are just in the final few minutes of this race.
You know how we always mention Takeshi Kita and his climb up the field? Whoa, he might actually get another spot right now as the car in front of him outbrakes himself. That's Thomas Ellison. Kita all the way up to 12th, having started this thing in 18th. This is just his MO. I love watching it. I wish we had more time to cover him usually, because I'm sure he has some fun trying to make these moves. Remember, Ellison trying to come forward, but he's just about back to where he started, having qualified in 9th. Currently, Taylor sitting in 11th.
Yeah, Ellison got a little loose, though, in Lookie Heights, so this might give Kita that opportunity down into MG. Not close enough to make the pass, but, oh, as Ellison makes another mistake into 11, Kita closing in now. This is that opportunity for him to gain as much momentum and utilize that draft into Swan down the Gardner Straight, but he is not close enough. Looks like he made a mistake in 11. So Ellison now going to pull away from Kita.
Bit of a lucky break from that 027. There's only so many times you can get away with that with a car. Oh, and Overbay has a problem. Sorry, Overbay going down the order. This is in Honda corner. What exactly happened here? There was contact between himself and Thacker. Aaron finally making the move, and the Floridian unfortunately took out the Texan.
Yep, and this gives Cameron Barry that gives him back into the 4th position with those mistakes happening, and Landini was able to also get by Thacker as well, so I think Thacker might have a little bit of damage. So this is a change of events now.
Locked him up when he saw he wasn't going to be able to make it, tried to stay out of him, and unfortunately the car on the outside had to turn in eventually. Wow, how about Cameron Barry boosting himself back up to 4th where he started this race. And Dini, as you mentioned, following through as well, now sitting in 5th.
Yeah, Eric Luke was now able to get into the 6th position, but Thacker is not done yet. He's going to take the attack to Luke as they head down towards the southern loop. I think he's going to try the same. Nope, washes up a little bit. But Luke also washes up as well into the gravel trap, giving Thacker back into the 6th position.
I was just about to say that Luke was doing such a good job. Started 11th. He was in 6th, and now he's losing out more spots, not just to Thacker, but to Mabroten and to Overbay. Are we starting to see some fatigue here, Taylor? Multiple mistakes from top drivers.
That could be the case. You know, these guys have been at it for a little over close to 45 minutes. Even though some of these guys probably are used to endurance races, it's still a difficult track to try and figure out, especially when you're dealing with traffic.
I believe we've got 2, maybe 3 laps to go.
Oh, LeBlanc spins off of Swan and is going backwards in the gravel trap on this Gardner Straight. I think he's going to try to get back on track, but this is very dangerous to get due.
He took a hard hit. He's going to try and finish this. This might actually be worth a replay. You can see him continuing on now. We're pulling it up now. This was all on him, just a driver error. We haven't seen this yet. Usually it's drivers understeering to the outside, but look at this. He oversteers to the inside wall here, Taylor.
Yeah, it looks like he just got a little loose, a little arrow push maybe, and next thing you know, he's in the gravel trap.
So we come back live. Oh, boy, LeBlanc just has not been having a good season at all. The 007 is going to want to stop in for a martini. Shaken, probably not stirred.
I'm watching Thacker right now. He is making grounds on Landini. Landini got a little lockup into Honda corner, so this might bring Thacker in a little closer, as he was about close to 2/10 faster that last lap against Landini.
I wonder if the 816 has the red mist down now after a mistake, probably kicking himself. Not sure what Aaron feels about that incident. Oh no, Pete Mabroten off now, and this is out of Siberia. Let's try and look at the replay. This is an interesting one. Oh, and he actually had some help. You're going to see Eric Luke have his woes get worse as he clips him.
I know.
Go ahead.
I know exactly how Pete Mabroten feels about that, especially through Siberia. That was always my trouble corner when driving on this track. get real loose through that corner, especially with it being a banked uphill corner.
The fluffy kitty ninja team, unfortunately, having one of their cars disappear from the tarmac for a moment. He has gotten back on, but well down the order. There we take a look at Eric Luke, giving a glance at his damage. Doesn't seem too bad, thankfully.
No, it looks pretty decent, even though with that contact on Mabroten, he might be able to still pull away, as we're now close to a minute left in this race.
We need to take a glance at Perez, because with 50 seconds left on the clock, Ben is getting the white flag. We wondered when things would swing back in his favor. Eisler may have 3 wins compared to the one of Perez, but this second one has been dominant. Completely opposite of what we've seen with Eisler's wins. Ben Perez, this is how he knows to do it. Getting up to the front, showing his pace, fending off all comers. So far, traffic hasn't managed to thwart him this time. He's got a little bit in front of him, and that's Fraley and Duchesne actually in a battle for position. He definitely doesn't want to get involved in this. He has plenty of gap back, Taylor, to back off of these guys.
Oh yeah, he's gonna just take his time through this now. There's no point in pushing the car. Just run your line, hit your marks. I wouldn't even consider even passing the lap cars unless they pulled aside for you.
One is pulling aside. Duchesne loses the spot to Fraley, so he lets him through.
Up to Lukey Heights for the last time, down into MG for the final time. Benjamin Perez just puts on this dominant performance and doing what he does best, staying up as number 1. The car number 1 now down through Swan for the last time.
Indeed, class is in session, and Ben Perez is doing all the schooling. Out of Swan for the last time, and across the line, Benjamin Perez takes win number 2 here in the American iRacing Tuesday Series. Clank can't be put down. A third, a second, and a second. If only he had started this season sooner, he'd be a championship contender. And Eisler follows him home by a whopping 15 seconds. Not the best performance we've seen from Christian. Still, it's a solid points haul for the Iceman.
I wonder if something with the setup was not right.
You have to wonder. We'll have to get him in here and talk to him after the race. Barry, what a run for him, taking 4th place. Even though he finished where he started, I say that is a quality run. Thacker just trailing Landini home. Couldn't take him at the end.
Overbay coming home in the 7th position, followed by his teammate Eric Luke in 8th. We're waiting on Pete Mabroten now in the 9th place in that 15 Porsche. Had a little bit of exciting runs for him, but he's going to come home inside the top 10. Excellent run for Pete.
Really no close battles left, except for maybe Matthew Fraley, but I don't think he's going to be able to get anything on Andrew Fawcett. He's the last car on the lead lap, in fact, so might as well give him some screen time since he will close out all of our finishing cars. He's going to give it a go, but
got a good run off of Swan. He might try to
go
to the outside, but
I don't think it's
enough.
Nope.
Well,
too little, too late. It's awful close, but
it was very close.
So with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll come back with driver interviews as well as the unofficial results. And on screen, if you stick around, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Don't go away. Welcome back to Phillip Island here in Australia. We just watched round 5 of the American iRacing Tuesday series, brought to you by Blue Ridge Performance. If you want to check them out and interested in their paint jobs, go to blueridgeperformance.net. We've got a link in the description in case you don't want to type it out. But after all is said and done, it was Ben Perez who took home the win. It was his second of the season. Only 2 drivers have won this season. We'll get to that in a second. Alexander Klenk, not one of them, but he still gets a second place, notching up great podiums. Christian Garrettson Eisler is the only other driver to have won this season. He gets a third today, so it keeps him in the hunt, but now Ben Perez knows that he can get one on him, at least when cars don't wreck him out. Cameron Barry finishes in 4th today, followed by Juan Landini in a top 5. Aaron Thacker was trying to take it away from him, but asked to settle for a 6. He should still be happy with that, considering he qualified in the 6th row in 12th place. Michael Overbay, late race problems with Aaron Thacker, probably not too happy about that. Moves him down to 7th with Eric Luke coming home 8th. Pete Mabroten finishes in the 9th spot, and Thomas Ellison takes a top 10. Taylor?
In the 11th position is Takashi Kita, followed by Lucio Vargas in the 12th position. Sebastian Masseri rounds out in 13th position. Mark Feil will come home in the 14th position. Andrew Fawcett will come home in 15th, followed by Matthew Fraley in 16th, as the last car on the lead lap. First car 1 lap down is Danny Duchesne in 17th position. Richie Pittenger will come home in 18th position. Karsten Quint in 19th, and rounding out your top 20 is Justin Hall.
21st was James LeBlond, having multiple offs today, unfortunately, including a hard hit at the end of the race, finishing 21st. Gary Schilling was behind him in 22nd with Hugo Galaz coming home at 23rd. Tyler Gore had problems at the very start of this race. He'll take a 24th. Getting into cars that had big problems behind him. Victor O'Brien, 2 laps down in 25th. Sean Kenning in 26th. And then we had our DNFs. Fernando Rodriguez will take 27th and Moises Lobato 28th. As we mentioned at the top of the race, Richard Colomb did not start today. That brings us to our interviews, including our winner. We're going to pull in Ben Perez and ask him about that race from his perspective. Ben, I guess Lady Luck was smiling on you this time.
For once, yeah, it was. It was a pretty calm race for me. Just kind of drove laps and tried to keep the gap maintained. And surprisingly, after the pit stops, I don't know what happened to Klenk, but I had a massive gap after the pit stops, so that was surprising. But yeah, overall, pretty quiet race for me.
Did you take tires at the stop? We were talking a little bit about that during the race on whether drivers would or not. And if you didn't, do you think maybe that gave you some of that advantage?
I did not take tires. I think probably the only race that it might have been viable was at Watkins Glen. We just, with the changes a couple seasons ago to where they do the refueling and the tires at the same time, it's pretty hard to find the time to be able to get the tires changed, because if you don't take enough fuel on the refuel, then you end up waiting on tires. So I don't know exactly what the number is, but I doubt that Klenk or Eisler took tires either, to be honest.
So last week you sounded a little downbeat about your hopes for the championship. Does this improve your mood on things?
It definitely helps. I think I'm still a little doubtful on it, mainly, especially because of the race at Watkins Glen, because that has to be my drop week now, as opposed to it being, like a 2nd or a 3rd place, something like that. But we'll have to see how the championship goes. Hopefully that drop week doesn't hurt me too much.
Yep, it's never fun having that one bad race kind of haunting you all season long. Well, again, congratulations. You've now got 2 out of the 5, starting to gain some ground.
Thanks, guys.
That was our winner. Ben Perez led nearly every lap of this race and started from pole. Up next, Taylor's caught up with Klenk, who has finished on the podium every race he's started this season. Go ahead, Taylor.
We're here now with Alexander Klenk. And Alex, excellent run you had today. Didn't get that win like we thought would happen today. So tell us what happened today in your race.
Well, started 3rd, dropped to 4th right away. So that was sort of putting a damper on my plans, you know. But got past, back up to third. Then had a great fight with Christian for a few laps. Got up to second, but by then Perez was had a good gap, and I knew that without a mistake or a problem for him, I wasn't going to be able to challenge first. So from then on, my plan was really just to keep second secured, which I managed to do.
Yeah, and you did put on a very good performance battling it out with Eisler. Did you end up, we were talking with Perez that he did not take tires during his pit stop. Were you also one of those drivers who did not take tires during your pit stop?
Yeah, I did not take tires. It adds a little bit of time to the pit stop with these 45-minute races. You just don't need to take enough fuel for that. And it was definitely getting pretty sketchy. The rears were going away, so had to drive pretty carefully.
Yeah, we were noticing how some of the lap times were dropping a little bit for you, Clank. But overall, do you think it was a good idea to not take tires?
Yeah, I think it's the better choice still. Even with the lap time, it just doesn't, the additional time in the pits doesn't, it doesn't, make up the difference that you'll get with new tires, I think.
All right. Well, congratulations. Hopefully next week at Zandvoort you will able to come home with a good finish. And thank you for taking time.
Thank you, guys.
We have third place driver Christian Eisler also waiting for us, the last of the podium finishers. After his race and after winning 3 out of the 5, this might be a little bit disappointing. Christian, you started in second, and then Clank got by you. You seemed to drop back. Would you say that you just weren't happy with how the car was running at this track?
Yeah, I think the car. I not expect that the car was lose a lot of grip in the second half of the race. So I don't know why. Probably my mistakes, but I feel the car a little bit strange in the second half.
Next round is going to a track that is much tighter with a lot more barriers that are very close to the edge of the track at Zandvoort. Do you feel confident going there? Is that one you've raced a lot?
Zandvoort?
Yes.
Oh, I was thinking Lime Rock Park, but well, Zandvoort is a very difficult track, so I think it will be a lot of the traffic will be an issue, but I need to work in my piece for I'm not happy with my performance today, so I need to practice a little bit more.
I have no doubt, but we've seen you manage to come in and threaten Ben, so we expect that you should be able to find some speed. Third place, though, in the end, are you happy or disappointed?
Yes, for the third place, I really I'm happy because my performance today was not good. I think Ben and Alexander did a better job than me. They were faster and better pace, so I'm happy. I think with Daniel or with Jorge Flores will be it could be worse than third place.
I don't doubt that at all, as they were incredibly fast. Well, congratulations on a podium, and hope to see you next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
That was Christian Eisler, the Iceman, taking home a podium here today. With that, we're going to close up, and we want to give another big thank you to Blue Ridge Performance for sponsoring and bringing this broadcast to air. Go to blueridgeperformance.net. We have a link in the YouTube description down below the video. Thanks to the Precision Racing League for bringing us back for another season. And in fact, we did get confirmation, I believe, that we are covering all 10 rounds now. So very happy about getting the finale in there here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Taylor, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at /Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, we're going over to the Netherlands next, to Zandvoort. That'll be Tuesday, July 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.